Hello and welcome to the next video. In this one, what we're going to do is put together pretty much everything we've done so far with quadratics, and now we're going to look at sketching them when they're in the general form like this. Okay, it's asked about a bit less this than other things in the exam, but we do need to be able to do it, and it's really good practice at everything else we've done with quadratics because it brings it all together and uses all your skills. Okay, so we might be given something like this, either x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0, or 2x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. And we're asked to sketch these. Okay, so we've done a lot of sketching before, and we know the things we need to be finding out. We need to find out the y-intercept, we need to find out the turning point, we need to find out where it's crossing the x-axis, what the roots are. Okay, and we do those stages and we sketch it. Okay, but when we have it in the general form like this, there's something we should always do first. Okay, and that's to do with the discriminant. Okay, so our first step should always be to work out what your b squared minus 4ac is. Okay, because remember in the last video I said this can tell you a lot about the nature of the roots, whether they actually are any roots, whether they're the same root, whether they're two different roots. Okay, it can also tell us whether we can just factorize the equation or whether we need to use a quadratic formula. Okay, another clue is if this is in the non-calculator paper, you're probably just going to have to factorize and not need the formula. If it's in a calculator or the question asks for decimal places, chances are you'll have to use the quadratic formula. But doing this little bit here with the discriminant first will also tell you. Okay, so first, actually, let's just write down A, B, and C so we don't get mixed up. Okay, and then we'll work this out then. Okay, so b squared, so that is 2 squared, take away 4 times 1 times negative 8. Okay, and this bit, we need to work this bit out itself. Okay, we work out the 4ac altogether, and then whatever it is, take it away. Okay, so we don't get muddled up with negatives. So 2 squared is 4. So then 4 times 1 is 4, times negative 8 is negative 32. So I've got 4, take away negative 32. That is 36. Okay, now, first off, if we remember back from the last video, if we've worked out the discriminant and it's greater than 0, that means there are two distinct roots, okay? Two roots that are different to each other, okay? However, I'm going to introduce a new rule, okay? And 36, that is a square number, okay? Because 6 times 6 equals 36. If you work out the discriminant and it's a square number, that means you can factorize it and you don't need to use the quadratic formula. Okay? Sorry, if it is positive and a square number, it has roots and you don't need to factorize it. Okay? If you work out the discriminant and it is negative, remember that means it's got no roots. Okay, so now that's positive and it's a square number. So that tells us we can factorize this to get it into root form and then go from there. Okay, so that means that is our next step, is to factorize. So to factorize, we're going to put it into two brackets, okay, because it's a quadratic. We'll have an x at the front of each of them, and then we're looking for two numbers that times together to make negative 8 and add together to make 2. So you could use your table where you list your pairs of factors, or you can do trial and error in your head. Doesn't really matter which. I'd recommend the table method, okay? But just to save us a bit of space here and time, I'm going to just look and go through them. Okay, so negative 8 and 1, they don't add together to make that, okay? 1 and negative 8 don't add together. Negative 4 and 2 don't add together. But 4 and negative 2 do. So 4 times by negative 2 gives me negative 8. And 4 add negative 2 gives me 2. So that means they're the factors I put in here, okay? Equals 0. Now, this is something very familiar to us, and from this we can get the roots, okay? Because remember, the roots are what makes x equal 0, okay? So when we looked at these quadratics in root form, it's basically the opposite of what's in each of these brackets, okay? If it's an individual x at the front, okay? So here, what would make this bracket be equal to 0? So let's do that one first. So what we want is we want it to be x plus 4 equals 0. Well, that must mean x equals negative 4. That's one of our roots. For this one, this is x minus 2 equals 0. So that must mean x equals 2. And that's our other root. Okay? So, got a lot of information already. Okay? We know our roots. Next, we're going to look at the turning point. Okay? TP. A bit worried I won't have left enough space here to sketch it, but we can sort that out, don't worry. So, the turning point, remember these quadratics are always symmetric, okay? So, the turning point will be in the middle of your roots, okay? So this means on your sketch, your graph is crossing at x equals negative 4 and x equals 2. Okay, I'm just going to add this information to a graph actually as we go so we can keep track of it. So I know that it's crossing the x-axis at negative 4, so it's crossing here at negative 4. And I know it's crossing at 2, which would be around about here. Remember, this doesn't need to be perfectly to scale for you to get the marks, but it does need to make sense. Okay, now, the turning point is going to be in the middle of these, okay? So you need to work out what number is in the middle, negative 4 and 2, okay? So you could draw a number line, okay? And then just count to what's in the middle, okay? Another wee trick, another wee quick way of getting the turning point is to add these together and divide by 2, and that will tell you what number's between them, okay? So to get the x value of the turning point, because we need the y as well, but we'll start with the x. So to get the x value of it, I'm going to do negative 4 plus 2, well that equals negative 2, and then I'm going to divide that by 2, it gives me negative 1. Okay? So the x value of the turning point is the point that's exactly between these, because it's symmetrical, okay, and it's negative 1. So on my graph that's going to be about here. Okay, I'll just make a little mark here, okay? But remember, that's only the x value. We need to know the y value, okay? So to get the y value, we've done this before. What you do is substitute your x value into your original equation, okay? So we're going to sub x into, sub x equals negative 1 into x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. So that means we're going to get minus 1 squared plus 2 times minus 1. Take away 8 equals 0. So minus 1 squared is 1. 2 times minus 1 is minus 2. So plus minus 2 is minus 2. Minus 8. Don't need that actually there at the end. So 1 minus 2 is minus 1. Minus 8 equals minus 9. Okay. So now I've got my x value of a turning point and I've got my y value. Okay. So y value down here. Let's probably put down about down here. And this is the point minus 1 minus 9. Okay, now probably got everything we need here to sketch the graph. Okay, we've got the roots, we've got the turning point, okay, but just to be careful, make sure we get all the proper information on it. we could work out just exactly where on here it's going to cross. Okay, so remember, where on here it crosses, we call that the y-intercept. Okay, and that would be the last thing to work out. Okay, y-int. Okay, and remember, how you work out the y-intercept is by setting x equal to 0. Okay, so first then we'll set x equals 0. Okay, and that means we're setting x equals 0, into this equation here. So that means we're going to have 0 squared plus 2 times 0 minus 8. So 0 squared is 0, 2 times 0 is 0, minus 8. So the y-intercept is happening at minus 8, which is about here. Okay. Now, got pretty much everything we need. There was one other thing we could have done, and that was whether this was a happy face or a sad face shape, okay? But we already know what the difference is between those. If you're positive here, it's a happy face. If you're negative here, it's sad. But it's positive there, it's a happy face, and that works because we're expecting it to turn here and then go through here and come up there and come up there. Okay, that's everything you need to know for that. Okay, now I think I'm just going to leave it there actually, and because of what you guys said in the feedback, you don't want it gets a bit hard to follow when the videos go on too long. I'll give you that and we'll do some questions just where it's factorising them. Okay, then we'll look at some questions after that where you need to use your quadratic formula, so this one here. Okay, so for the time being, hopefully that was all understandable. If you have any questions, you know how to get in touch. Okay, thanks for watching.